There's been a lot of interest in the mining sector over the last 12 months, and Morgans is one of the major sponsors of the Noosa Mining Conference. And today I'm talking with Chris Brown, who's the Senior Consultant for the resources sector for Morgans. Chris, there's the mining conference starting at the end of July. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that conference and who are the presenters.
Yes, Scott, sure. Morgans has been a major sponsor of the Noosa Mining Conference for the past 5 years. And as you say, there's been real interest in the sector over the past 12 months. I think at the last conference, Owen Hegarty was one of the keynote speakers, and Owen called the bottom of the market at that conference. He might have been a month or two too early, but certainly the interest started to arrive after that. The conference is held in the third week of July. As I say, this is about the fifth one. We have somewhere between 35 and 40 presenters. I think this year there are 36, covering a spectrum of commodities and companies, from the larger companies down to the smaller ones, from lithium, oil and gas, gold, copper. So a range of presenters. They all have booths. Investors are more than happy to walk around, grab the presenters, the managing directors, the CFOs in their booth and forensically ask them questions and look in the whites of their eyes.
So last year I remember that there were a couple of key picks that you identified. Can you tell us who they were and what's happened to their share price since?
Yeah, well look, I'd like to say that I identified them, but I think really what we did was look for a consensus view on the three that stood out. And the three that stood out were Dacian, Doré Minerals and Orocobre. Dacian has had a sterling performance going from 40 cents to its current stratospheric level above $2. Doré has brought its mines into production, gone from around that level to around 40 cents to be above $1. And Orocobre, of course, has successfully commissioned the Olaroz lithium carbonate plant in Argentina, and it's gone from around $1.40, $1.50 to mid $3. So three very successful selections, dare I say it, by the group of people who attended the conference.
So you mentioned that there are 35 odd companies presenting this year. If we can perhaps look into the crystal ball, who do you think are the interesting stories?
Well, obviously you're going to have to attend the conference to find that one out. But looking from the outside, last year's three outstanding performers are presenting again this year: Dacian, Doré and Orocobre. I guess you can't really expect that Dacian, which performed so incredibly well, is going to repeat the performance, and Orocobre has brought its project into production, and we've seen a lot of focus on lithium and the lithium wannabes as opposed to lithium producers over the last 12 months. Doré has just brought its second mine into production, so I think they still have a good chance of performing very well this year. The other ones, I'm not sure how we're going to go. I suppose there's one company that I haven't really followed, Havilah, which looks to me to be interesting. It's developed a gold project in the Curnamona Craton in South Australia. There's a good copper project there too, which I think could excite some interest. We've got a couple of oil and gas players, but as I say, at this stage I think we'll really should wait and see who the presenters, or what the presenters present, and draw our line after the conference rather than trying to preempt it.
Sure. So just thinking about the resource market generally, you mentioned Owen Hegarty called the bottom of the market 12 months ago. What's the current Morgans view now on the different commodities?
Gee, well, I mean, we're a broad church, as some people say, and we have a broad spectrum of views, and appropriately, most of our clients, I think, have got most of their money in the larger companies, and I think for portfolios that's as it should be. I suppose I'd say that when I came back from leave last year, back end of last year, October, I started for the first time getting calls about gold producers. So there was interest coming from outside of me pushing things at people. People were interested in the gold producers. I have to say, I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, I started getting calls from our advisors looking for gold explorers, so not necessarily people in production, but where they thought that success could be achieved and you could see a substantial increase in value. We all know that the lithium and graphite producers have gone ballistic over the last 12 months, and certainly the gold producers have gone ballistic. I mean, Northern Star and St Barbara are obviously the two market darlings, and probably appropriately so, but the two that we cover formally, Regis and Evolution, both of those are dividend payers. Both of those have performed very strongly, more than doubling in share price. Well, I think Evolution's gone from around the 60-cent mark close to $3. So they've all performed very well. All the golds have performed well, and frankly, they probably all deserve to. All the Australian producers who survived that downturn after 2012 have all really sharpened the pencil in operations and the way they run the company, the way they look after shareholders. They've all got something going for them, whether it's the reserve base, the resource base, the cost of production, their ability to execute M&A. So a range of strengths. But the interest from the investors, as I see it anyway, is now coming down the market into the explorers. And recently we've seen companies such as Emerson Resources, which had a couple of reasonable hits in its Tennant Creek acreage. Share price there has gone from 4.5 cents to a touch below 8. So there is interest in that sector of the market now, dare I say it, after a 4 to 5 year hiatus.
Okay, well that sounds very interesting. And in looking outside of gold, are there any other companies that have caught your eye?
Well, yes there are, and I think one thing for investors, when the market's run, it's a bit too late to say which is the best one. Sort of going and saying which lithium story should I invest in now. So I think you've got to be really looking at the spectrum of resource assets, and sure, it's before they run, you don't know how long before they will, but this is a cyclical market and they will. It is just a matter of time. I think people should be looking at the base metals, copper in particular, nickel, which seems to have based out, and there are some signs that it's firming, although there are still big stockpiles. So the base metals, copper and nickel, I think people should be looking in the mineral sands area. We've seen base resources treble in price over the last little while. Iluka seems to be firming. There seems to be an expectation that the titanium minerals and the zircon minerals prices have bottomed and they are starting to firm. And I guess my favourite there is mineral deposits, and they will be presenting, and I suspect that they might be one of my outperformers from this conference. But again, I stress that last year they weren't my picks, they were the picks of the conference that outperformed. But mineral deposits, I think, is a very strong story. It's got an operation in Senegal, a mineral sands mine that you couldn't build now for $600 million. It's got half of that, and it's got a titanium smelter where they produce a titanium slag in Norway, operating on hydropower and very environmentally friendly. So they're vertically integrated in the sector. So I think they're a strong story.
Okay, well we've got some very interesting times ahead. So if advisors are interested or clients are interested in attending the Noosa Mining Conference, talk to your Morgans advisor. And I've been speaking today with Chris Brown, who's the Senior Consultant for Morgans in the resources sector.